Okay, so in the last tutorial we discussed about the message source interface, and we studied that Spring has a ready to use implementation of this interface with the help of resource bundle message source, and this application context interface has also implemented the message source interface, and that is why we are able to use this get message. But the implementation of this interface is by resource bundle message resource class, because application context is also an interface, so it cannot implement that method. So for this we need to define, just to use this entire thing we need to define the implementation of this resource bundle message source in my spring.xml. So we'll just define the bean id equal to message source, and class is, you can check from your application context, support is the package which has a resource bundle message source class. Yes, we have it, so we can just copy the qualified name from here and just paste it over here. So this is the one which is used to resolve the text messages. So we need to add this to my file, and it takes the property name equal to base name, and this takes the value where my properties file is being located. So I created with the address. You don't need to define the locale and everything, that is automatically being judged by this. You just need to give the name of that property file and no dot properties file also. And one more thing important, that's it. This is the only change you need to make in your spring.xml. The few points which you need to remember over here is that when you're defining your resource bundle message source, remember that your bean id is with exact name bean message source only. Why? Because the application context will look for the bean specifically by this name when setting the internal message source, and it will take the properties file and set the internal message source, that which like locale or which property file it needs to apply to my application. So this name should be exactly same. Fine, and you will never need to inject this bean into your application beans. You will just use the get message of it. So now we can use the context or get message, and whatever value we'll get from here, let me store it in a string like message, so that I can check that I'm getting it. You can do CISO, simply message is enough, or you can do the direct one also. Okay, so now let's see. I have given locale English, so first it will try to look for this. Okay, just to make you clear, here see you have used the parameters, and here the parameters are not being used, and here the definitely it is in French, so it's different. And one more I'll just do here, I'll write the default so that I am able to differentiate. This will be run when you are not able to write. So this is the complete setup of my resolving the text messages using Spring application context container. Just you need to do one thing. First you need to define the properties file with different locales, with language country, with only language, with the default one, and with the French one. After that, since Spring has a message source interface which has a method get message, with the help of which we can get the corresponding value from the properties file of that locale, which will be defining over here, along with passing the parameters to my properties file. So we'll use this get message method, and to use this method, the Spring has an implementation of this message source interface in the form of resource bundle message source. So we'll just define this over here with the exact name. Now let's see the running and see if we are able to. Yes, we are able to get the welcome to Spring application. But see, here we have just defined the language and the country, but here I'm just simply defining the language, so it is just going to my English. But yeah, here I can define the country also along with it, then it will see get country is there, so you can definitely go to that particular one. So now since it is going to this one, so I'll just simply write the 0 and 1, right? So now you will see that it will pass the parameters and display you welcome to Spring application by, I wrote and also, no, the and is not needed. Anyway, it will just replace the first parameter with the first parameter is placed at the 0 placeholder and the second is placed at the first placeholder. So this is the arguments you are passing. Clear? So now one more thing, now I want this internationalization to be supported in my main bean class also. I want this text to be also replaced by the one I have defined in my properties file. I'll explain you for English first, then we'll go for the French one. So for that, what I need to do is in the manager class, again I need to have an hold of the context, then only I can use it. And to get the hold of context, what we can do is we can implement the aware interfaces. We can implement the application context aware interfaces, or we can have the so let me just write it over here, the private message source so this is the one. And I'll create the getter and setter for it. Now we need to have this message source, so or what you can do is instead of implementing this aware interface, what I can simply do is I can just write you can create a getter and setter for it. Yes, you need to create an object of this, right? And we have defined the object of this in my spring.xml with this resource bundle message source. So I just need to have an object of the resource bundle message source in my manager. So I can do it @autowired, and now I get this hold. So what I need to do over here is simply use message source dot get message first address I am not passing any parameters now, so I can just give this key over here. Any parameter you want to pass, null, which locale you want. Let me right now do it for English only. Perfect. So the same line you need to copy for the other two ones also. The only change will be in the key. So now we have not hard coded the text, but instead picking it from the properties file. For which locale? English. Since it is able to find English, so it will not the country, so it will just go to this one only and get the values. Next we'll see for the French and the default also. Let's see the running. Yes, we are getting welcome to Spring application and this. So this is working fine. So how we get the object of the message source and then use it in my bean also. Just one thing I'll do, I'll just change the locale over here so that you get to know that internally when Spring is looking for the message source bean and setting the internal message source, it checks the locale and set it accordingly. Even in the display data, I'll just, instead of doing English, I'll do French. Here we are having just simple. Now we are having the, you see here we are getting the French and the French. So this is how it picks the another message source and goes to this properties file and get this content. One more thing, if we are not able to find a locale, say I'll do it Canada. I haven't created any property file with the name Canada. So let me just do it for this one only for Canada, so that let's see from where it get the value. See, for the Canada it goes to the default properties file. It goes to the default is the English one, so it goes to the English properties file, and then other one it goes to the French. So default is not this text. If you're not defining any locale only, then it might go to the this one, otherwise it's the English default. You can simply write null also over here, that you're not defining any locale, right? So then also it is going to the default one, which is my English only. So this is what it is doing. So this is how it supports internationalization and get the remove the hard coding of the messages in my application and display it with the properties file. Okay.